Okay, good evening, guys. Decided to do a video. I want to preface this by saying before we begin that I'm going to be talking about a very heavy subject today, and it's not exactly a G-rated subject. Um, and you're probably going to wonder what this is going to have to do with TTRPGs, and so I'm going to, as you can tell by the footages, I'm going to bring up something that's going to be very serious and very heavy and based off of a real life event. Some of you might know the names that are on the screen, and you probably know where this is going. Anyways, so a lot of people believe that the turn-based combat in a lot of TTRPGs, where things can literally resolve in a matter of seconds, if not minutes, is unrealistic. But I'm about to disprove that today with real-life events. Anybody that knows me personally knows I'm a big self defense guy, and I'm a pro Second Amendment guy and stuff like that. And one of the events that a lot of us study on is the 1986 Miami-Dade shootout that happened, um, that involved two criminals by the name of Platt and Maddox, and two FBI agents that were killed, Agent Grogan and Agent Dove. And we're going to talk about that and why this is why, like, we're going to prove how quick things can go downhill, because it's one thing when you learn self-defense, especially firearm self-defense, you're taught that things can go south very quick. And I used to own the book, written by Ed Morales, who was one of the FBI agents that was present on the scene that day. I can't remember the name of the book, but it was. I used to own it, and I sold it. I either sold it or I gave it away. I can't remember. It's been years back. But Ed Morales is known as the agent that ended the fight that day. Now, some of these images are real life. This one is from the movie, an NBC movie. But as you can see, a lot of these are actually real life pictures of what happened that day. And excuse me, the reason that is important is because it is a real event, and it was, by the time it was all said and done and over with, it was known as the bloodiest 5 minutes in the history of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And it prompted a lot of conclusions that, if you're like me and you're into self-defense shooting and stuff like that, check out Paul Harrell. His YouTube channel is uh, more in line with handling this kind of thing, and he even does a reenactment explaining it. Uh, so uh, he's got a YouTube channel, and he does a lot of stuff on it. I'll show you. I like his stuff taken out of context, but this is the guy right here. And it's an action figure that he played around with on his channel, and cool guy. So he talks about all that kind of stuff all the time. Um, we are going to talk about, though, the 1986 Miami-Dade shootout. Now, to give you a brief summarization off of, go away. To give you a brief summarization off of what led up to the events, is Platt and Maddox were two armored car robbers. Essentially, they were Vietnam vets, and they, if I'm not mistaken, one of them, I want to say it was like I want to say Platt, but I'm not sure. Yeah, right here. Uh, Platt's wife, Regina, whom he had married 9 years earlier, was found dead from a single shotgun blast in the mouth. Her death was ruled a suicide. So, like, I remember hearing that supposedly he was a suspect in her death, and they thought it was suspicious, but that's neither here nor there. But by the end of it, what was supposed to be a routine traffic stop, which they knew it could go south very quick, they tried to do a pit maneuver on their vehicle, and by the time it was done and over with, it went south very quick. There's actually a movie, like I said, In the Line of Duty, NBC movie, which gives a brief summarization, generalization off of what happened that day. And the details are not correct in a lot of ways, but it gives a very decent summarization if you can handle David's soul for about an hour and a half. But the climax of the movie is honestly the best part, the actual shootout itself, because one guy with a Ruger Mini 14 that was illegally modified with a fun switch ended up doing the most damage that day. And so, to give you an idea how fast things went south, by the time it was all said and done and over with, 145 shots were fired that day in a matter of 5 minutes. It went south very fast. I want to see if I have a picture of Dove's 9mm. Because he had a Smith & Wesson. I can't remember what model it was, but it was damaged by gunfire. It was like a 1 in a million shot. And one of the suspects ended up taking a lung shot, which by the end of the day was not immediately incapacitating. It was certainly a fatal shot, but it didn't stop the fight. And that's where a lot of people kind of drew criticism on the type of firepower. And, a lot of them, erroneously concluded that FBI agents should carry 10 millimeters, and without any kind of proof that was any better. And still to this day, there's no proof that round is any better. In fact, the recoil was so terrible on those guns that they ended up having to pretty much invent the Smith & Wesson 40 caliber round, just so that people would pass their shooting exams. And a 40 Smith & Wesson is not exactly a very popular round within the gun community. It's very expensive. The penetration potential is negligible. The expansion is negligible. Like, you're talking about just like a millimeter of difference. It's a 10 millimeter short is what it is. It's more expensive and they're harder to sell. Trust me, I know they're very hard to sell. I've got firearms. I've got guns. So I'm a huge proponent of that, and I believe it's your right to bear arms. And 40 Smith & Wesson is a super hard firearm to sell to anybody. A lot of people end up with them being forever guns. But so to give a brief overview, we're going to read Wikipedia's summarization of the shootout itself. 8:45 a.m., April the 11th, 1986. So this is 3 years before my birth, by the way. FBI agents led by Special Agent Gordon McNeil assembled at a Home Depot to initiate a rolling stakeout searching for the black 1979 Chevrolet Monte Carlo, which was Collazo's stolen car. You see, these two guys had actually left this guy for dead so that they could steal his car and use him for robberies. The guy survived. He survived a gunshot wound to the head and made his way back from a quarry that was locally used as a shooting range, and pretty isolated. He ended up making his way back to the highway and flagging down help, and he gave a description of his car, and this is how they knew what car to look for. They didn't know the identity of the suspects at the time. They were acting on a hunch that a pair would attempt a robbery that morning. A total of 14 FBI agents and 11 cars participated in the search. As the FBI agents took part in the shootout and were deployed as follows: Supervisory Special Agent Gordon McNeil, 20-year veteran; Special Agent Richard Manoutsy, a 15-year veteran; Special Agent Ben Grogan, a 25-year veteran; and Special Agent Jerry Dove, a 4-year veteran. And these two are the ones who will be the casualties on the side of the FBI that day. Special Agent Edmundo Morales Jr. Ed Morales, the one who wrote the book on his perspective of the event. Special Agent John Hanlon, a 23-year veteran. Gilbert Orentia, 4 years. Special Agent Ronald Reisner, 18-year veteran. And around 9:30 a.m., Grogan and Dove spotted the vehicle. They began to follow. Basically, first thing that they saw whenever they tried to do this pit maneuver is they saw one of the suspects with his Ruger Mini 14 rifle, which is chambered in 223, pretty much aiming it from his side of the vehicle right directly at them and pop, 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 trying to take them out. Anyway, so something to point out is one of the agents actually Hamlin lost his 357 Magnum service revolver in the collision in trying to pit these guys. It went flying out the window, and he had to go find it afterwards, and he had to use his Smith and Wesson Model 36 as a backup weapon. The collision. This is one of the reasons why I try to keep a pair of nerd straps on me. The glasses strap. Grogan's glasses were knocked off, and he had terrible vision, and so his ability to put rounds on target that day was compromised, to say the least. So Platt then fired his rifle at Morales, who was running across the street to join the fire. It hit him in the left forearm, creating a severe wound. Like, it was so bad that like his arm was hanging off by meat. Like, it done that much damage, it almost severed his arm. And he doubted whether or not he would actually live that day because he was losing a lot of blood. Platt climbed out of the passenger side window. One of Dove's 9mm rounds hit his right upper arm and went on to penetrate his chest, stopping an inch away from his heart. The autopsy found Platt's right lung had collapsed and the chest cavity contained 1.3 liters of blood, suggesting damage to the main blood vessels of the right lung. This would be fatal, but it wasn't immediately incapacitating, and that is one of the issues that was at hand that day. So we're not going to go into detail when it comes to Grogan and Dove's death. It was sad enough that it happened. Both of them were killed fairly quick. So if that's any consolation to anybody. But by the time everything was starting to die down, Platt attempted to start Grogan's and Dove's car that they entered with because the Cutlass was pretty much totaled. Morales drew his .357 Magnum revolver, moved parallel to the street and directly toward Platt and Maddox. Fired 6 rounds at the suspects. The first round missed, hitting the back of the front seat. Second hit the driver's side window post and fragmented, with one small piece hitting Platt in the scalp. Third hit Maddox in the face, and fragmented in two, with neither piece causing a serious wound. The fourth hit Maddox in the face next to his right eye socket, traveled downward through the facial bones into the neck, where it entered the spinal column and severed the spinal cord. The fifth hit Maddox in the face, penetrated the jawbone and neck, and came to rest by the spinal column. Morales reached the driver's side door, extended his revolver through the window, and fired his 6th shot at Platt. So anyway, Ed goes through the window, shoots his 6th shot at Platt. The bullet penetrates Platt's chest and bruised the spinal cord, ending the gunfight. Involved 10 people, 2 suspects, 8 FBI agents. Of the 10, only one special agent, Manauti, did not fire any shots because his firearm was thrown from the car in the initial collision, while only one special agent, Reisner, was able to emerge from the battle without a wound. The incident lasted under 5 minutes, yet approximately 145 shots were exchanged. Toxicology tests showed that the abilities of Platt and Maddox to fight through multiple traumatic gunshot wounds and continue to battle and attempt to escape were not achieved through any chemical means. Both their bodies were drug-free at the time of their deaths. It was a crazy gunfight. Like I said, you can find the scene for free on YouTube, and the gunfight itself is pretty accurate to what really happened, by what you can read here. simply look up in the line of duty gun gunfight, and it should show you. Um, this ended up this ended up leading to the creation of the 40 Smith and Wesson round, which was, in my opinion, one of the worst conclusions about this investigation, especially because the 10 millimeter and the 40 Smith and Wesson are not really proven to be that much more effective than 9 millimeter. Everybody pointed at 9 millimeter. Oh, it doesn't have enough stopping power. That wasn't the issue. The issue was the failure to place um, rounds on the targets. So I guess by the end of this, what does this have to do with TTRPGs? Why did I even bring this up? Well, because this is like to show you how quick things can go downhill in just a matter of a few minutes. With respect to the real life men who were there that day. Um, this is just kind of like, it's not unrealistic to have all of that stuff happen within a span of 5 minutes. Literally, from the time that they did the pit maneuver until the time the gunfight finally ended, 5 minutes. So it's not that unrealistic. Now, a lot of people kind of expect that, like, something similar to the 1997 North Hollywood shootout, which was a crazy event in and of itself that I might talk about one day. And I don't have any qualms about that one because by the end of the day, the only two people that died that day were the perpetrators themselves. So I really don't care to talk about that and kind of make a lot of that. But, two cops that died that day that didn't need to. But, like I said, it's not that unrealistic. I mean, look at real life here. So you had, I guess before I sign off on this, I am going to, mention again the names of the agents killed that day. The good guys, Benjamin Grogan and Jerry Dove. So they were the ones that died that day, and of course the culprits who started this whole thing. Not to glorify them, but Maddox and Platt, two guys that ended up creating a lot of damage. It's amazing at what two dudes who were not even on drugs with superior firepower could do. So, I mean, kind of something to like kind of remind your guys up, I guess. Like as you plan your games, like bring some things. Again, don't mean to make light of this. Very serious, heavy subject, right? But it's the best real world scenario I know to bring up, and that's not going to be a scenario that a lot of people knows to bring up. I just thought it was kind of a nifty idea to talk about this. Plus, like I said, this is a subject that I know quite a bit about because I studied it. You take up self-defense firearms class, and a lot of instructors will recommend Ed Morales' book to you, which, if you are interested, let's see if this article gives the name of the book. If not, I'm sure I could go to Ed Morales'. Let's go to Ed Morales' Wikipedia page. I'm sure it has his. I'm sure it has his book on his page. So, Edmundo Morales Jr. Man, is 70 years old this year. Just turned 70. Happy birthday, Edmundo. He did, of course, write a book. Doesn't mention his book at all. I do want to plug his book. Give me a minute. Here we go. So, if you're interested in the book is called FBI Miami Firefight: 5 Minutes That Changed the Bureau. It's a pretty good read. Obviously, I don't really necessarily agree with a lot of Edmundo's politics in that book, but I respect the man. I respect for what he did that day, and I respect the bravery. I mean, after all, The man had a partially severed arm a one-armed man going into a gunfight. Like, that's something that you don't see very often. So, again, I'm probably going to do a reaction series using this particular format that I've got going on now, since I'm kind of still learning it. But anyways, guys, so again, serious subject, very heavy subject. I understand that. Definitely not a PG subject at all, but just to kind of like give you an idea that yeah, a lot of things can go bad in a matter of minutes, if not seconds. So, like, the whole seconds or minutes thing in TTRPGs, Dungeons and Dragons or whatever, like, it's not that unrealistic. So, anyways, as always, take care, guys. God bless, and see you on the other side.